Hello and welcome to Check 1 2, where we give you the lowdown on testicular cancer by talking to survivors, advocates and supporters of testicular cancer awareness, and we film it here at the world famous podcast studio Glasgow. Now, my next guest had a surprising twist of fate when he was going through his treatment and reached out to former Rangers player Craig Moore, who had obviously had testicular cancer as well. Now, Craig Hughes, who is my guest, had different challenges, be it that misdiagnosis and to the emotional toll of going through chemotherapy while still wanting to be a football player as well. Craig's positivity really shone through in speaking to him, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode. So thank you very much, and Craig Hughes. I just see with the kind of the NFL stuff, was it just like did you do, I don't know, commentary on what you saw before, or was it just
it was we would do just a run through what was on at the weekend, right. But we also done because fantasy football's massive over there.
Aye.
So it was just a rundown of what players to pick up and that and all that. So cool. It was just something a wee bit different. So I've done that for a while.
You got a team, an NFL team?
I like the Dolphins.
Do you? Aye.
I think it was because of Ace Ventura. I think I spoke to him when I was younger. But I was over in America for a few years, so that got me into it again. So I watched it in. But
were you playing football out there, or was it just work?
I've done a football scholarship. Aye.
One of my mates did that. He was in Bethel, and I don't know
is that Tennessee?
Yeah,
we played against them, I'm sure, a couple of times. Aye,
my mate Andy Pennycook, he's nearly 7 foot tall goalkeeper.
I recognise the name,
because Andy's been a bit kind of like amateur football, and obviously went across to Tennessee, and I think there was somewhere else he was as well. I'm sure he was in Tennessee. I'm sure there's a bit of me thinks he was in Kansas as well.
Right, I wasn't far from Kansas. We were Iowa, whoever one was, which is never a place you'd thought of visiting, but I loved it, to be fair. It was all
when you see the pictures of Iowa and all that, though, that kind of Midwest, or
we were in the
South.
middle of Des Moines, which was a decent city there, so it was actually alright, but anywhere outside there, you're pretty much middle of nowhere. But it was a decent enough size city.
Hundreds of cornfields, essentially.
You went to drive to another state or whatever, and that's all you'd see for miles, to be fair. But it was a good experience. You'd gone somewhere different from where you'd go on holiday and stuff like that. I thought it was good. It was a proper American experience.
You actually saw America rather than the touristy stuff.
Aye.
It was because I was going to say, because my NFL team's the Eagles.
Right.
It's because my uncle lives there,
Right. Aye.
So it's always, and it was been tough being an Eagles fan until the last few years. And oh my God, you're actually winning something. But so Craig, thanks so much for coming on Check 1 2.
No problem at all.
Just for folk listening or watching, you just kind of give a wee kind of background to you and your kind of cancer story.
Yeah, my background, always like most guys around here, played football, tried to keep fit all my life, and then probably 2017 probably approximately, I started to get a lot of back pain, a lot of issues with that stage. It kind of felt as if my insides were tied up. I was struggling to sleep at times. Went to go and get checked out a few times, thought it was obviously from playing football, just thought it was a bit of back pain. Went to go and see the GPs. They were the same, just diagnosed it as back pain, gave me a couple of painkillers and sent me on my way. And then as time went on, about 2019, I got really a lot of pain. As I said, struggling to sleep, waking up in sweats during the night, and knew something was really wrong. End up got to a stage when I went to A&E one night, and then they got me back in for a scan, and then they diagnosed that it was a tumour that was growing, that it came from. Originally, they thought it was lymphoma. The first couple of days, they thought it was lymphoma, but it turned out it was testicular cancer. So it was a tumour that was growing pretty fast. It was pretty advanced stage, and then I had to obviously act quickly and get into chemotherapy, get the surgery and stuff. So I kind of go more into that. But since then, been back on track in terms of health and got through it, thankfully.
It's a massive kind of emotional thing. Obviously, you've been through that, but that kind of period of not being misdiagnosed, but I suppose that's what you could call it, really. During the podcast, we've found that a lot of guys have found that they'll go to the doctors and it's either nothing or it's another thing, and it's kind of a weird one, because you go, the whole point of this podcast is to kind of fight that stigma, but you're finding it in the medical field as well. How did you feel like having that misdiagnosis for so long?
I think it was mainly relief. I tried not to be too frustrated under what had went on a couple of years ago, because you can't change that. I know doctors and stuff are under a lot of pressure to get appointments in and out quickly, so I kind of, weirdly, when I got diagnosed, weirdly it felt like a relief, because I tried not to look at it as all the scary words like chemotherapy, like cancer. I tried to look at it as, finally found out what's actually wrong with you. It wasn't just me going mad thinking that, knowing that something was wrong with me, and then they've got a solution to it. So I tried to look at it in the simplest of terms and just being thankful that although they caught it late, although I had pretty much been misdiagnosed all that time, at least they'd caught it at a stage, and at least I was being told the news that there's a path out of it. So I think I tried to look at it as positively as possible.
That's quite amazing, actually, eh? Like, to be able to kind of do that, eh?
I think so. I mean, I think it kind of changed my outlook on life. I've never been a negative type of guy, but I think this particularly made me think, turn everything into a positive. It's a chance for you to get better, for you to, have a clean bill of health again, and, sort of restart after this. So I think that for me was the only attitude that I could have to survive. There was no point feeling sorry for yourself. There's no point feeling anger because there's a lot of people in a worse situation than yourself, is always what my kind of outlook on was it.
And did you go to the Beatson for your treatments and stuff like that?
I went to the Beatson, yeah. That was another one. It was something I'd obviously heard the Beatson existed. Had never had family that went through there. I'd never had friends that went through there, so never really knew anything about the place. So the night, and it was a quick turnaround. It was a case of, when a couple of days I got a phone call saying there's a bed for you tonight, come in for chemotherapy. So you get in, really nervous about what's going to be, what's inside those doors, what does treatment look like, what does it feel like, and just from the minute you get in there, you just realise the amazing work they do, and the sort of doctors and nurses and volunteers in there just make you feel right at home. So I cannot speak highly enough about the place, to be honest.
So some of the nurses and doctors that I met when I was there were unbelievable. Was it Jeff White you were under as well?
Yeah, Jeff White. He was top class throughout, and even now when I go for checkups or whatever, it's just so thorough, and those guys are just straight to the point. They don't mince their words. They tell you exactly what's going to happen, and just reassuring to know that you're taken care of in there.
I think that's what me and my wife liked about Jeff as well. Like, he's so, one, he's down to earth, and two, there was no sugarcoating. It was just like, here it is type of thing, and I absolutely love the guy. Like, it's like anybody that has met him,
I think that's, I mean, I don't want to do him disservice that he was cold and just told me this and that, but he's there to do the job and just tell you what needs done. The nurses are there maybe to pick you up a wee bit, or to, be the more friendly faces and stuff like that. But I was just kind of straight to the point, told you, and you went away reassured, because you were like, right, he wouldn't just tell me this is going to be all right, or this should be fine. Like, so you were reassured. I thought he was top class, to be fair.
Aye, and it's a shame because that's him retired now as well.
Is it?
Aye, so it's like, because of the job that I'm doing now, I don't know if you've seen, but we're giving out like chemo care boxes. So I was phoning in because I had I've had a wee bit of kind of issue in the last kind of year or so as well. Thought I kind of found a lump, and then my testosterone's been all over the place as well. So got a appointment with Jeff, but that was his, like, I think he only had like 10 shifts left to go. So maybe by the time this comes out, he'll be properly retired. But I'm like, fuck, that's such a shame for such an amazing doctor to lose. But aye. What age were you when you were diagnosed then?
I would have been, was it 31? 31, I believe. Maybe 32, 31, 32, around that.
Aye. And see, so you had like your support network be like your family and stuff like that. How were they when you told them?
They were brilliant, supportive, just obviously worried, as you'd expect. And to be fair, I was probably the one that was the least worried out of everybody. I mean, the day they told us, it doesn't really sink in you. As I said, you just go into the ocean, right, I'll get through this, what do I need to do next? But like my mum, when she was there when we got the news, and she was in tears and upset, and I think for me, what I really appreciated during it was I was quite thankful it was me that was going through it rather than your family. And I think anybody kind of thinks like that, because it's much worse. I knew in my mind and I knew in my body that I'd be absolutely fine, but it must be a lot tougher for family members going through that when they don't know that, you know. So I think it was a tough time for them. I think they were very stressed out with everything, but obviously very, very supportive.
And that kind of like, it's that you and yourself, you might not feel how you look, especially when you're going through chemo. It's like, because there's some photos of me that exist. I'm like, oh.
No, it was the same. It was for me. It was. I mean, the hair was fine. I'd had like a shaved head and stuff before in the past, but the stubble gone and all that. I just didn't look recognisable at all. And the amount of weight I lost, like I was never heavy or anything, but I lost about 3-4 stone in weight. And you just look really frail, to be fair. So they must have been looking at you like, you're struggling here. But it's just obviously what the treatment does to you.
I always used to say to folk, it's like, I lost a stone in a day, and they'd be like, what? I had to take one out.
I had a fair point there.
It was like just when folk were saying, you all right? I'm like, I lost a stone in a day. But it's such a kind of weird pull when you try to look. I know I kind of did as well. It's like you try to look after everybody else's emotions and feelings at that point, because you can see it across their faces, especially at mums as well. You know what I mean? It's like it's such a kind of horrible thing to witness as a parent seeing their child. Do you know what I mean? It was a really kind of odd time. So with that kind of like your kind of friend group and stuff like that as well, how did your pals take it? And was that something that they kind of had known about before?
No, the most no idea. I think it's a guy thing, isn't it? You don't really talk about, you don't complain about, I've got a sore back, I've got this or that. You just kind of go on with it. So they had no idea, to be honest. So I think there was a lot of shock, and especially since I was always one of the kind of fitter ones in my pals group, and I remember a few of them saying the amount of abuse they've gave their bodies, and it's me that ends up and also, but they were brilliant as well, and regular to see me. I think I remember one of my mates saying you couldn't believe it, 2 of them came in to see me one night, and we just sat and had a laugh for about an hour, and he went home. And his missus said, how was he expecting? She was expecting like bad news, expecting upset. And he's like, it was some laughing the other night. So back tomorrow's all. But everybody was really supportive. And I think the way you get through these things is positive attitude and having a laugh and, doing things the right way.
It's the one through theme that we've kind of noticed, because I don't know about you, but before, I hadn't met anybody with testicular cancer before, even during my treatment, and the same thing would have happened to you. Like, there's in the Beatson, there's that, I think it's like 16 to 20 something, I think it might be 27. You go to this, there's another ward, but because I was 30, I had to go into the kind of main ward. So it was it was all older guys with kind of different cancers that was around. So I didn't meet anybody my age or with testicular cancer, but it's that kind of that through thread of humour that always seems to be the way that everybody talks about it, especially because it's dark as anything. And it's like, and it's funny because I think growing up, you're always told you can't laugh about stuff like that, and then see when you're in it, you find so much things to laugh at.
I think the main thing I do is even now, laugh at my own expense. To be honest with you, it's me that's the end of the joke, because I know we can see are cautious because other people's stories maybe haven't been as, happy and ending as my own, but it's like, I think stuff like that, just, you try and laugh through things, don't you? You try and make jokes about yourself, and it's good that you're on the other end, that you can, you're through it and you can look back, and it's just a Scottish thing though, the dark sense of humour, isn't it?
It's like everywhere's dreary, so we better make fun of it somehow. It's like, I remember it was like my wife and my pal had came up for that first night that I was going to get chemo, because my mate Jamie worked in Glasgow at the time, so came in, and it was that way I was getting wheeled down for that pre-chemo x-ray. So, but I don't know why it came into my head, but do you know that scene in Scream when the guy's like, I'll be right back? I'd done that as I was leaving, and the two of them were like, he's nuts, he's in here about to get chemo, and he's cracking wise, but it's like, there is really kind of nothing more that you can do,
No, as I said, there's a lot of people in worse situations than yourself, so I always think just get through it, positive attitude, and have a laugh. So.
Aye. And obviously you've kind of, I've kind of read kind of newspaper articles and stuff for you as well, and that your kind of story's been out there. The kind of, when you were kind of going through your treatment or found that kind of news, you'd reached out to somebody. Can you talk on that?
Yeah, I mean, plenty of people were huge helps that had been through it and stuff like that. But one I reached out to was Craig Moore, ex-Rangers player. I reached out. I thought, don't really know the guy. He doesn't know me. I never really expected. I felt a bit silly, to be honest, reaching out. And then Craig got back to me, was a brilliant help, and I've met him several times since then. But I think just hearing from somebody at that level, because I think for me, as you said, the stigma attached to it, when I got diagnosed, I didn't really want to tell him, I didn't want to talk about what type of... I think for the initial stage, and then I kind of got my head around it, and then reached out to different people, and like Craig was a massive help for me. And then since then, I mean, not that you want to talk about it all the time, but I thought talking helps me kind of speak about what I went through, and it also, as I said, doing stuff like this, if it helps one person that gets it, that maybe gets themselves checked or maybe needs a bit of help when they're going through it, then it's worth doing. So I think reaching out to Craig, a guy of that stature, you know, and somebody I'd watched many times playing football, it was great to have a bit of support from him.
Aye. And was it obviously like you've played football like growing up? Was it just that kind of social media thing, or had you was there a through path that you kind of found, or?
I'm not sure if it was Twitter or LinkedIn.
Right.
It was one of the two I had him on. So I just messaged him on that, to be honest with you. So again, as I said, it wasn't somebody I knew from before, but it was lovely of him to take the time and to be checking in regularly throughout it. Yeah,
I kind of feel the same as well, like in terms of like kind of when I've been reaching out to folk on LinkedIn, because that's how obviously we've kind of connected as well. And it's like when folk give you that time and, you know, you're here the day, it's like, and I think you're right, your story will resonate with somebody, you know, it's like somebody out there's going to be sitting going, it could be even somebody who you've kind of in your past that you've maybe lost connection with, and then go, there's Craig, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't realise that happened to him, and they'll check themselves.
100%.
You know, and I think that's such an important part of it, and that's what we're really trying to do with this podcast, and I say it all the time, but it's like, if we can talk about it and folks start, like, you know, I don't know how many times you did it, but see, like, typing in testicular cancer, those first few, even that first kind of couple of years, and if you find something, you'll look at it, and you hope that guys will find this podcast and go, okay, I'm going to give this a listen to, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I think I'm kind of one for sort of second guessing what I'm doing and going, you know, well, people think, oh, I'm going on and on about this, get on with your life, do you know what I mean? Like, which is a daft thing to think, right? And you don't want to get all the attention on yourself, but it does, you think to yourself, you know, as I said, talking about it can help people, and whether it's this battle they're going through or something else in their life, then your story could sort of help them. The way that, as you said, hearing from other people, hearing their stories helped me. And it is, as you said, the stigma attached to it is sort of the unknown. For the first bit of the treatment, I didn't even dare look at Google, to be honest. I just got on with what I had to do and kept my head down. But stuff like this, easy research, was actual, you know, people talking about it, I think can be a huge help. As I said, if one person listens, it helps them in some element of their life, or if they get checked or something, then it's worth doing and worth talking about.
I was silly that I never really kind of looked anything much up until the night before my operation, and I looked up what the operation was.
No chance I was looking at that.
I swear, and I was on the bed and I just curled into this fetal position and took a full-blown like panic attack. Like, why did I look at that? Why did I look at it? No, he's going, you've said you're not going to look at it, and I don't know what possessed me.
I absolutely avoided Google at all costs, to be honest, because you know what it's like. I know people at Google, they've got a wee bit of cough, and the next thing, a couple of clicks, and they've been told that that's them, you know. So never mind when you're getting a op or treatment like this. So I stayed well clear. Doctor, just tell us what I need to do and I'll be there.
My hope is always I just input these kind of symptoms in, it just comes up, you've got connectivity error. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, thank God.
I mean, Google's never going to say, you're absolutely fine, just leave it. So
it's going to lead you down a rabbit hole like, you could go for like, no, it's just the cold, to like your lungs about to come out your chest.
So.
But so obviously, like you've been through your chemo and stuff like that. How was there anything that you found when you went through your chemo that obviously you never kind of researched much, but and maybe not known anybody who'd been through it? Was there anything you found surprising or?
I I think you kind of hear these horror stories about how bad you're going to feel and stuff like that. So I think in one way I'd kind of like, right, it's going to be quite tough going through it. I would say probably the thing that's this hair coming out didn't surprise me. Obviously a bit of sickness and feeling quite tired a lot of days didn't really surprise me. I was prepared for it, but I think probably there was things like the smells and stuff that had come out. I think that surprised me. Like and a lot of, sometimes I get flashbacks and it's like, I don't know if it's like coming out your pores and stuff like that. That just, there was something about the smell coming off me that I thought, that is horrible. So that's probably the only thing. But as I said, there was days when you felt really tired. I tried to do as much exercise as I could. If that was walking to the end of the street, the days that I was feeling rough or whatever, doing that and just trying to stay active, to be honest. But no, I would say nothing came as a major surprise. But there was obviously tough days when you're in tough treatment nights when you were being sick constantly and you're feeling a bit rough.
And did you have a relatively smooth like run at it, or was there any kind of like wee complications or anything for you?
There was no major complication. I think the main one was just because they tried to do it within a short space of time, just hammering me with 3 days. You know, over the weekend I'd be in Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just 12-hour sessions on it. I think the last session in particular, I was really being sick a lot and really low, and they were not really sure if they could do the last night, which I was desperate to obviously get through and get it done. So that was a bit of a struggle. The other thing was I picked up some sort of bug during the time and ended up in hospital for a night, but it was nothing. It was just because I was so dehydrated, because it hits your immune system so hard, but nothing, you know, no major complications in that sense. I think they'd kind of said they felt as if young enough that and we'll get through it so we can sort of hammer this chemo and get it done quite quickly. So I think I just always had that in my mind, to be honest.
Oh, that's good though, because like honestly, man, I thought I'm going to be all right in this. I'm going to get my chemo and it'll be fine. Everything in this kitchen sink got flung at me. I had bird flu, I had sepsis, so I had my, what do you call it, my wound dehisced. So I mean, it kind of started opening. I had a hematoma. I was like, and I remember phoning in, and I got Jeff, and he's like, Paul, I'm really sorry this is all happening to you. I'm like, it's not your fault, Jeff. It's like, it's just your luck of the draw. Like,
I think for me, I'd been kind of told, you know, see, like playing football when I'm younger, you every time I had an injury, if they said you'd be back in 6 weeks, within 2 weeks, you're like, I'm fine. But with this one, I was like, right, just do exactly what the doctors tell you to do. So, but they said avoid the restaurants, avoid busy places, avoid like swimming pools, avoid big crowds and all that. And I'm like, the timing, I mean, in one way, my timing, I was lucky, but in other ways, because right as I got out of and got back to normal, COVID hit and we had to do all those things anyway, no going to restaurants, going to crowds. So in one way I was an expert at it, but it was those type of things that got me. So I was careful during it, but that was a bit frustrating for me. Like,
because you're COVID hit and you're like, I don't know how to isolate. It's all right. I can do this. What a wild time though to like have that. And then, so were you past your treatment when COVID hit?
So yeah, I was.
Right.
So mine was a bit back to front. Usually surgery first and then the chemo.
Right.
Mine, because they felt it was getting close to my lungs, it was chemo first and then the surgery. So my surgery was about February. So start of February it was. So then I think it was March, April COVID hit just after that. So in one way the timing, I think, unlucky, but in one way very lucky, because when I went in, family could come in and visit. You could, get access to everything in there. There was no restrictions and stuff like that. But people going in straight after me when chemo hit and you couldn't have any visitors or you couldn't have anything like that, I think would have been so much tougher. So one way it was a longer period away from normality for me. It was actually, I was lucky in a lot of senses.
The fact that you got it back to front type of thing. Because I mean, it was isolating enough, like without isolating in terms of getting your chemo away, you felt like those long 12-hour days. Was it BEP that you got your chemo?
I couldn't actually tell you, to be honest. I just said, just give us it, to be honest.
Was it like, did you get it at night? Was it a bag all covered and all that?
So it was at night they'd come in and change the bag. So, I think it usually started afternoon, early evening and went on till the morning kind of thing. So they just changed the bag throughout the night. Which was a bit annoying when you had the drip and attached to you, but as I said, it's probably the best time to do it at night, isn't it?
Getting up to pee every 2 seconds and all.
And I actually see in the morning when you got it taken out, I actually felt like, I don't know if you felt it's the same, but I felt as if it was like an absolutely awful hangover. Like I felt as if it like you just felt absolutely rotten in the morning, didn't you? Like
it's like, oh, I tell you what, I think that again.
Aye.
I just I felt it as well. Like, see the first one, like when I didn't know what to expect. Obviously, like when that first bag goes up, you're kind of going, right, how's this going to feel? And the thing that I was kind of naive about, I thought I was going to feel instantly like horrible.
Yeah.
But it was just like that coldness of it first going on. Then after that, it was like, oh, okay. It wasn't until like the following day you go, oh God.
I think it was wee things like, see the noise the machine makes. See, when I got home, I was hearing that in my sleep. That's the only thing, and I was waking up thinking I was attached to the thing. Like that was the only thing that got me. But you do get used to it going into, and it's not. I said to reassure MD going through it, it's not painful in that way. It's not, it's a weird sensation, but it's not the way I kind of feared it or anything.
I was the same. I was kind of. I felt that it was going to be like this horrible sensation, and then you kind of realise, like, oh, it's actually, I know it's all relative. It's like it's not that bad in terms of like, but then obviously the side effects of feeling like that kind of hangover thing. I didn't drink for 2 years, and very honestly, like I had one glass of wine that made me ill, and it was probably about 2 years where I was not teetotal, but pretty much didn't drink because the thought of hangover made me feel like I was going through chemo again. So like that mental aspect of it, I think was the big thing, see, in terms of kind of like, I think because I worked in psychiatry, like as a nursing assistant for a long time, it's one of the things that I'm always curious about, because I'm so not introverted is not the right word, but I self-assess an awful lot, like, and I kind of look at my own kind of mental state and things like that, like just by kind of being really aware. Like, was that something that you were aware of after treatment and things like that?
To an extent, yeah. I think for me, the way I always kind of look at things, well, before I started my treatment, I was finding myself stressing about a lot of things. I don't know whether that was due to, I was maybe not sleeping right and not feeling the healthiest, but I was stressing over a lot of things, and then it was like, the mentality, it was like flicking a switch, to be fair. I think it was like I just thought of, why do you stress about all these things when somebody could come and tell you news one day and it totally changes your perspective on everything. And I think after it, I just had this goal of just getting through the treatment. I wanted to get back to playing football. I wanted to get back to full fitness. I wanted to, get probably fitter than I'd been, obviously the 2 years before it. So I think I just had these goals in my head, and I think COVID probably gave me a lot of time to kind of think about things, and you're in isolation, a lot of time to think about it. So I think I kind of reflected, and I just think I looked at it as I was quite proud of what I'd been through, proud of where I was, but I felt as if like I just got a new lease of life after it. So I know it's strange to say, but it is a major positive in my life that it happened, to be fair. And I don't say that lightly, because as I said, I know a lot of people go through, and it's horrendous what some people go through, but I looked at it as, this is a big changing point in my life. This is where I stop worrying too much, and listen, we all still worry about things, whether it's work, whether it's money, whether it's family, whatever, but I just think it just changed my mentality on life, to be honest.
It's something again that we've found, like in these conversations, that every guy that sat in that chair, a man, has went, it had a big impact on my outlook in life, or it changed me as a person, or and I think there's, if you have like exactly like kind of what you done and had that kind of positive mentality going in it, and then even if you feel crap and rubbish, and you're going to have your down days, but when you come out the other side of it and you go, I done that. I was a kind of a bit like you in terms of not in the kind of embarrassment of talking about it as such, but it was more the, like, see when somebody said you were a cancer survivor, see for a good couple of years I was like, it made me feel ill, because I thought, no, there's people who have actually survived like big cancers. That's what I thought. And then it isn't until you realise, you go, actually, like what we went through is no less than anybody else, because you're still getting essentially poisoned for days on end to kind of kill cancer.
I think that again, it's I mean, generalising here, but it's a guy thing. You play down your achievements. A Scottish thing as well. You play down your achievements. You play down, stuff like that. And I think as well, I've always thought I don't want this to be what everybody thinks of when they think of me, and I don't think they do. But it's important as well to be quite proud of what you've been through and what and share your story and stuff. So I think you're right. I done the same, and I still to this day do the same. I think it wasn't a big deal what I went through, but actually everybody that's looking for the outside thinks no, it definitely was a big deal.
Because again, it's like in that similar sense that you kind of, there was a period of time where folk would ask questions about it and stuff, and then you'd be in a night out and folk would ask, and I always felt like, because I was quite openly talking about it, I got to the stage though that I thought, am I creating this conversation and folk are sick of hearing about it? But then when you try and stop it, folks will ask you anyway. So and then obviously I came and I got this job with Cahonas, so it's essentially folk look at it and it's like it's Paul talking balls, do you know what I mean? But it's
I think sometimes I find like that knows that I went through this, they're hesitant to ask about you, and obviously they're sensitive towards it, but I'm kind of now, as I said at the start, I was probably a wee bit worried about everything, worried about what people think and all that, but then you get by that daft kind of feeling that you've got and realise, be quite open to talking about stuff like that is a big thing that happened in your life. It's not, as I said, it's not all you want to focus on, but it's an important thing in everybody's life. So I'm always quite happy to talk about it when somebody asks me.
Yeah. And I suppose that's the good thing, and it helps the kind of culture change a little bit, because you don't think about it. You don't think, oh, Craig sitting in the pub talking to one pal about it is going to change much. But if he takes it and goes, oh, and then he talks to somebody else that you didn't know, about it, it really can kind of have a massive 100%. Shift, eh?
And I think, as I said, for me personally, it's been good talking about it, because I think, as I said before, when it happened to me, I was just very, very focused on getting it done, not getting too emotional, not getting too up or down. That was just my way of dealing with it. I just thought, just be positive, just focus on what needs done. Don't, But actually, then it's hard after you get all clear. It's hard to reflect, and I think just because you've put up a wall and you've shut off all the emotions, you've not let yourself get too upset. I mean, the day I pretty much got told you were all clear, I didn't feel anything at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was the same with yourself. I felt not flat, but I felt nothing. It was like a total anticlimax where you expect it to be like you're jumping for joy and everybody's celebrating, but you don't feel it because you've not allowed yourself to get too low. So you can't really get too high. You're always kind of have your guard up a wee bit. So I think as time goes on, talking about it, you reflect more on it, and then you sort of can then process everything that's went on.
Aye, that's a really good point. I never really thought about that, but as soon as you started talking about that, it's like, yeah, actually, I remember Jeff coming and saying the treatment's done what it's needed to do, and then obviously you go through that kind of few years, and it's like, yep, it's looking great, but you're never kind of left feeling. I remember when we got it all clear, I think it was I think me and my wife went out for dinner, but I think we'd already planned that for that night anyway, and there was a little kind of celebration, but yeah, I can't remember that elation or...
I was total. I mean, right through. I mean, I just didn't find myself getting upset at all. Didn't find myself getting too up or down. So it did confuse me. You don't really get that, and you want to be really excited, but it's a more gradual process than that, I think.
Yeah.
So that's probably the part that I found quite surprising.
Yeah. So see when you were saying earlier on that you got a kind of wee bug and stuff like that, I take it that was just like a wee flu?
It was just a wee... so actually my pal's wedding that weekend, so I was gutted that I couldn't make it. He'd kind of said, look, don't worry about it. If you can make it, you can. But the Friday came and I picked up some sort of... I think there was something going about at the time, like a stomach bug type of thing. I ended up, I couldn't stop being sick, and then ended up had to go into hospital for the night. So that was probably the most depressing part of it. I was thinking of my mates at the wedding enjoying themselves and felt bad that I couldn't be there. But it was it wasn't too bad. A few days and they just had to make sure I was getting fluid into me.
Right.
To be honest, getting antibiotics into me. So it wasn't anything major, to be honest. But I think, as you'll know, when you're low and when you've had a lot of chemo, you can get these wee bugs and they totally floor you. So it was just a case of that, to be honest.
When I got the flu, I had been like yourself. I had no contact with anybody. And I remember my father took me to Asda. He was like, Mum will get you out for a while. And I was feeling kind of like, I need that. Because of the anti-sickness tablet I was on, it made me feel like there was a train being pushed through my head. I needed to move. But when I first got it, I couldn't, like I physically couldn't. But so I was like, I went out. And as I was walking in, there was a lassie walking out and she sneezed and some of her, she never covered her mouth and it hit me. And I was like, oh, clarty bism. And then I then ended up in the hospital for 2 weeks.
I think, to be fair, like my dad's quite organised and quite sensible, and I think he was quite like, no, you can't be doing that, you can't be doing that. I think it was up to me. I mean, from the beats, and I could actually see Ibrox, and I was hoping that I'd get out and go to one of the games, but he was like, no chance. So he kept me into a wee bit with that stuff.
Could you imagine? It's like sneaking out of the beats and like, Craig Ferry.
Back 90 minutes.
Oh man, that's brilliant. Like I didn't realise you could see Ibrox for the beats enough.
You can just see it.
That's quite funny. There was one time when I ended up with the sepsis, me and my wife had a dinner and we got Ben and Jerry's ice cream and I'd ate that, right? And I thought, I've got a bit of a sore stomach. And I was like just being sick and sick and sick. And Pam was going, Paul, are you sure you're all right? I'm like, I think I've just got a chill. No, I was dying. It's like, I ended up getting, like, my father had to drive me through to the beach and I was honestly rings round myself. And I was like, and she never lets me live that down. Like, see, if we're ever eating ice cream, I might not get a chill, Paul.
That's one thing that got me though, so that you didn't have your taste buds proper go during it. So I think that's one thing that was quite frustrating during it. You're like, because I remember I think I was maybe finished the treatment, but my dad said to me, it was one Friday where I wasn't getting treatment, he said, come on, we'll go for a curry and we'll go and watch the game down at the pub. I was obviously feeling better by that point, but taste buds were only back. But I remember sitting all day saying, I can't wait for this curry, like looking at the menu online and all that and looking at chicken tikka or whatever I had, and you tasted it, it was nothing. Like, it was nothing.
That's shame, eh?
But my main go-to was ice blasts.
Oh, really?
I don't know whether it was because your tongue was still a wee bit sensitive and stuff like that, but I must have spent a fortune on ice blast going in the ice cream shop every 10 minutes for an ice blast. Doing that.
Did you get it with the mix? Was it?
You have to get the mix.
You've got to get the mix. Oh, they Tango Ice Blast, man. Honestly,
brilliant, lifesaver.
Was there anything that that you found, like when you were going through your treatment, that helped you? Like was there anything that you liked to eat that you could keep doing? Was there anything? I don't know.
To be honest, there wasn't a lot. It varied from time to time. There'd be days when I could hardly eat. But I thought usually, during the treatment, just after, it was stuff very bland. Like it was always chicken nuggets or something. You would have just something easy to eat. So I just tried to eat like whatever I could, to be honest with you. But I was fully stocked up in Lucozade and Haribo, so I got it through. But I found myself at like, you'd wake up at like 4 in the morning and I'd just go down in the big box of Haribo and you just end up you had cravings for them. But to be fair, I think always, like, because as I said, I've always tried to keep fit and tried to be into football. I always watched what I was eating, so I actually quite enjoyed that this spell I could eat whatever I wanted. Like, I remember the doctor saying, I asked him, like, what should I be eating, thinking, should I be like mega healthy, is there certain foods I need? And he was like, nah, pretty much the chemo is going to kill off a lot of things anyway, so you want something to stick around. I don't know if he told you, but he said junk food sticks around the longest. So I'm like, no problem. So it's the first time in my life I probably let myself just eat whatever I could.
It's not a diet that you want to go on, but
no, it was a nice wee break, but after it I'm like, no, back to eating semi-normal.
It was Ritz crackers for me was my thing. I see, like especially like those days. Remember, did you ever get the kind of metal mouth thing where you felt So the only thing I could eat was Ritz crackers, and I was just like, they're a godsend. But what happens when you eat something too much? You get put off. You're like,
100%. Aye.
Bloody, I couldn't look at Ritz Cracker for about 4 years, man. Like you don't in the box, like, nah, I can't.
Aye.
But it's such a kind of a weird experience to go through. Like you say, you know, one having that type of surgery, the chemotherapy, like that mental aspect, because it is you are playing a little bit of mental gymnastics as well, like, because like we've kind of talked about already, like you're more concerned about everybody else's view of you, and then there's obviously that kind of wee dip in a crash. You know, you talk quite openly, and it's been like something that I've tried to do as well, is always kind of be as open as I can in terms of kind of that advocacy about it. You know, you're having your story in the newspaper. How was that like when you were kind of approached to that at first?
Again, when I was approached about it, I mean, my thought was similar to this today. Your thought is, look, if I can help people, if it's, you know, worth sharing the story. And then I had a wee bit of the fear. I'm like, seriously, the day it went out, I'm like, you worry what, stupidly, you worry what folk are going to think, and you worry, am I milking this? Am I like, oh yeah, he's looking for attention again? But so it's daft things like that, insecurities run through your head. But I think then after it, because I got so many positive, you know, comments back and stuff like that, I thought, no, it was a good thing to do. And I think how far you've came from not wanting to talk about it at all and wanting to bury your head in the sand to actually going and, you know, having that sort of thing plastered in the newspaper.
Aye.
I think
and it wasn't like it was like a local rag either, you know. It was a national newspaper.
It was covered on that. So, but no, I think all you get is positive feedback, obviously, from it. And as I said, I've heard from people who have said, like, they heard my story, I've spoke to them on kind of Twitter or stuff like that, and it's helped them. So, as I said, if you're helping one person, it's worth doing.
Yeah, and see obviously you going through that. What was the impact on your friend group with that? Like, did the guys, did they have a kind of change in kind of how they address stuff like that, or did you?
I think quite a few of them got a fright from that. There was a few that probably have. I mean, they all probably keep that kind of stuff kind of private, but I think there was a few who took notice of things now that probably they wouldn't have in the past. So I think it gave everybody, you know, it gave everybody a wee sort of scare in a way that if this can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. Yeah, really. So I think for that sense, it probably did have a bit of an impact on them.
Aye, because you'd be like me as well. Like you'd kind of, because what age are you now?
36.
So 36. So there's only like 3 years between us, eh? Like growing up, you didn't get spoken to about this kind of stuff, eh?
No, nothing at all. So it was kind of, for me, it was a wee bit of the fear of unknown, isn't it? Like in some ways, like folk didn't really speak about it, folk didn't really. So I think you try and, like, as I said, by speaking about it and you stop and think sometimes that people actually will look at your story and think, you know, he's done well coming out of it, and he's, you know, it maybe helps them get through. As I said, maybe other issues that maybe completely different from it, but it maybe puts things into perspective a wee bit.
Aye, and obviously you've kind of talked about it, that you're fit, you've been healthy. I mean, what was your football kind of path like? Was it like school football and all that growing up?
School football, and then I went out to America. This football scholarship, so I had 4 great years of playing out there and then coaching out there as well. So, and then came back, I played junior football for years as well. So I think for me, I'd kind of, because of the sort of back problems and that, I'd kind of stopped playing, or I was playing, but I wasn't really like at my fittest then, always pulling up injuries. So I think when I got diagnosed, it kind of gave me that wee drive to play again for at least a couple more seasons. It made me stop complaining about a Tuesday night when you look at the window, it's pouring rain, you've got training. I looked at things differently, and I think my goal was just to get back playing. I was kind of, as I said, early to mid-30s, but I still felt as if I could get back to fitness, get back to, you know, better shape than I was before, and play for a few more years, and actually appreciate, you know, being able to, I mean, because I sometimes think back, whether it's, you know, whether you're doing a tough run or your football training, I sometimes think never take it for granted, because it can all get taken away from you quite quickly.
Yeah, for sure. It must have been hard though, like, you know, like if because obviously you've had that back pain, and you know, folk who are listening or watching or whatever, if you do exercise and there is something sore, it has an impact. Like, you must have like went through a phase, like, you know, if you're pulling up injuries because you were like, your back was obviously in pain, you're compensating in different ways. Like, did that impact your love of playing?
A bit. I mean, I was getting like hamstring injuries, and I don't, as I said, it probably was because of compensating, because of the pain, the kind of tumour was pressing against me. And then I said, if you're not sleeping right, if you're not eating right because of that, it's all a knock-on effect. But I think it mainly, I was starting to think, oh, it's just a bad back I've got, so maybe I'm just getting to that age when I need to wind down and, you know, stop playing football. It's causing me too much bother. I've just been pain the next day. I wasn't as fit as I like to be. So I probably did. It was leading to me compensating other ways, and obviously a back's obviously central to everything. So I think it probably did. So I did. I mean, nobody enjoys if you're not playing at your best, or you're not, you know, as fit as you'd like to be. Nobody enjoys that. So I did probably affect it, to be honest.
Aye. What did you play with? Defender?
A defender, aye.
Aye. So you were kind of...
Aye.
Obviously, you know, in lots of knocks and challenges and things like that anyway.
Aye.
But so now, like, I obviously, like, you've spoke about that at the start, but now I can understand, like, why that kind of positive thing about the diagnosis must have happened for you, because, yeah, if you're going, oh, my back's gubbed, but actually you're told, no, the back pain's because of, something that can be treated. And then you as an individual, you've went, no, I want to get back to playing football then, eh?
Aye. I think, to be honest, your upbringing playing sports, I think it helps with stuff like this, because obviously, especially being out in America, there was some very, very tough pre-season sessions in the heat we'd have.
Right.
And I think you don't chuck it when things are tough, and being away from home and stuff like that. So it kind of builds that resilience in you. So when you come to stuff like this, you're like, no, I'm not quitting, I'm not giving up, I'm not doing this, I'm got to come back stronger. Or like in sport and in life, everybody gets rejections, everybody gets bad times. So you've had plenty of times when you've got bad news through, or you've been disappointed, but it kind of teaches you to, you know, not bounce back from it, look at the positive, go on to the next thing, prove people wrong, or do stuff in that sense. I
think that's the great thing about like competitive sports, especially as kids. It really does have an effect on you. I was the same. I played some football and then played rugby. Was the kind of like what I kind of ended up falling in love with.
Yeah.
And the same with my laddie. And I think like my boy's 13, and when I watch, like, he is quite a resilient wee dude, like, well, I say wee, he's already about 2 inches taller than me already, man. Do you know what I mean? It's no hard. I wasn't blessed with height in my genes, but it's something that I think's missing a lot for folk now as well. It's like, you know, folk will go, oh, maybe it's you've got to be a certain type of player. It's like, or if it's person, to want to play sport. But you know, see, like you're saying, you know, it's like it can instill a bit of discipline, a mental toughness of going, well, no, we had a rubbish game. You feel down, but you bounce back for that.
Yeah, I think, as I said, it's sort of goal setting as well. You go into it and you think, I'm going to, you know, come back fitter, come back stronger, and you get set yourself targets, you know. But as I said, football was one focus that I had, but obviously you know, you've got other things that you focus on for getting better for. I mean, my main one was I've got a daughter, so it was mainly to make sure you're all right for her, you can take care of her. So that was the main focus. But then football and sports, you're thinking that's, you know, it is good to instill that in you, that hard work to get back to where you were before, or just, you know, to be as fit as you can in your life. Yeah,
it's always good to have something like our wee girl, she does Highland dancing as well, so it's that similar discipline, that you know, it's really kind of, and I think that's what helped. I genuinely believe that, like you say, you know, those Tuesday and Wednesday nights training in the peeing rain, and like getting smashed by guys that are 20 foot tall, you know, it's like it adds a little kind of like, no, I think I'll be okay, and it does help.
I think so, because outside of the illness with sports, you know, you've only got a certain amount of time in your life that you can do it. So even though I just play, you know, I play on a Saturday morning still, you know, you still think when you go to every session or you go and play on a Saturday, you think, in a few years I might not be able to do this, you know, so make the most of it. Don't take things like that for granted, whether it's because of your health or your age or anything. The fact that you can get up, you can get out and run, it's something that not everybody has, you know.
Yeah, and there's a bit of that kind of disappeared for me, like over the kind of the time where I've let things kind of get in the way of that, and like I was the kind of opposite for you, like when after my diagnosis, I kind of ballooned, like I got really, like, not fat, but I got, like, I'm sitting here quite heavy, do you know what I mean? It's like, but it's just that kind of, and beforehand I was fit, I was running, you know, I was doing like my 5 and 10Ks in good times, and I enjoyed that. I was going to jiu-jitsu as well, and but then obviously, you know, like other things happening, kind of, you know, you think life gets in the way, but you know, it's funny. It was just recently, you know, talking at home. It's like I need to, like, for buy, you know, all these expensive gym memberships and all that. All I have to do is put on a pair of trainers and go out. And I think it's funny, like, you kind of feel that you hit rock bottom with your fitness at times.
Yep.
And I think I've hit that now. And it's funny, like, these conversations, I come away with something every time I have a chat with somebody, and see the day, like, it's that kind of, like, you've inspired me, like, as well. Like, I just want to go, I could run through a wall now.
No, that's, I mean, that's the way I looked at it. I mean, you look at your darkest stage during chemo, and it's no different to when, if you feel unfit, you feel like the first step. I mean, I think of the days that you could hardly walk, you could hardly, you know, get out your street. But I just thought, how good's this going to feel? Like, I don't care how long it takes, but how good's this got to feel when I go back on a football pitch? Or at that time I signed up for a half marathon, and I thought to be able to do that a few months after chemo. So it just, as I said, whatever your goals are, whether it's to run a couple of kilometres, whether it's to go a big walk, whether it's to run 5K or play sports or whatever, I think it reminds you that there's always a journey you can go on.
Yeah, I know, for sure. And it's such a good positive thing to kind of put out there as well, especially like for guys who are going to catch this podcast and maybe be going through it, to look at that and have that advice and go, actually, like, let's kind of, I think one of my biggest problems was as well going through treatment was that, see, because I had those kind of setbacks in terms of kind of illness within it, you know, I'd hear about guys who are still going to their work or going out a run. Like, there's a guy that has been on the podcast, Ewan. Like, he got his, he was doing his chemo. He got annoyed that he didn't run his 5K. I'm like, you're going through treatment. And it's like, but it's like, and like yourself, you felt that you're kind of all right, and it's like, I was like, you know, maybe I need to kind of stop giving myself such a hard time and just allow myself to kind of go a walk.
100%.
You know, start,
and everybody's got different things that they're going through. The chemo, we kind of touched on, it's different for every person. Your plan's different for everybody, and how it affects you mentally is different as well. So you try not to look at what somebody else is doing and think, I need to do more or whatever. You just give yourself credit for the journey you've been on, kind of thing, and where you can possibly take it. And as you said, everybody's got other priorities in life and stuff. It's you can't measure yourself next to everybody else in that sense.
It's that keeping up with the Joneses thing, isn't it? Like, you
we
really
do it.
yeah, we do. In every aspect, you go, they must be happier than me, and it's like, well, that's not always the case. You didn't know what's happening behind for somebody.
100%.
I think, like, obviously, like, with these kind of conversations as well, the kind of thing that I always kind of like to ask is, you know, if perchance somebody, you know, who's gone through it watches this, what would be your advice to even like somebody who's at the start of their journey as such? I
think I touched on it. I think it's different for everybody. Some people want to research, everyone want to know exactly what they're going through. For me, the message, I think, to everybody is your mindset. I think it's trying to be positive. And I know that can be so much more difficult depending on what the news you've got or what your particular journey is. But I just think it's the mindset. I think just, you know, thinking if you've been given that path of how you're going to get better, do it and be thankful that, you know, there is this route, that there is help that you're going to get. And I would say just try and attack it with positive, try and look at it as try and turn anything that they can throw at you, turn that into a positive. That'd be my main message probably.
Yeah, and that's such a great message as well. Like, it's always, you know, that positivity. It's such a, it has a big factor in it,
Yeah.
Like, you know, obviously clearly did for you.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm talking that, but we're all human, aren't we? We all have our days when we're feeling down. We're all have our days when we want to sit on the couch eating Doritos, to be fair. So it's
One too many times, brother. One too many times.
So I'm not trying to talk like the co-safe David Goggins here, but no, I think it is. It's all about your mindset. I think in any situation in life, I think you've got to just try and look at the positives, and try and see what you can take out, see what lessons you can learn from it. As I said, whatever the situation is.
Yeah, and I think you're right. You're completely right. It is looking at it and just going like any positives that you can glean from it, and having good support networks, allowing people in. I think obviously is that big advantage as well.
100%.
You know, it's like, because again, that typical Scottish men thing. You err towards the side of going, I'll just not go through it yourself, but you'll keep things to yourself.
Yeah.
But if you're like, and reaching out to, you know, if like, again, hopefully folk listen to this and reach out to Cahonas, or you know, are able to kind of reach out to, even to yourself, I suppose. You know, if like somebody comes across you online, you know, hopefully they wipe it off. But it's one of these things where the culture is changing. We are going to start speaking about it. And one of the big things for us, like, as Cahonas, like, we're trying to really establish that is like going into schools, businesses, sports clubs is a big thing. You know, obviously having a background in football and playing in teams and things like that. You know, do you see the advantage of like having like a Cahonas out there that's going to come into your clubs and things like that? And
100%. As I said, I didn't really have any knowledge yet, and so going into football, you know, speaking to teams, I think is as important in that sense. Same with other aspects, so they're getting in more with mental health and stuff like that. It's you know, I would say it's massively important, and I think for me, I think football is, you know, it's a great thing in terms of your dressing rooms, your support system. So when you go through that, all the guys that you've reached out, all the guys that you've played football with, that you've built such a bond with, they're all reaching out, they're all there for you. So I think it is an important thing. And a lot of the guys, as I said, will be similar to myself, that maybe go through it, that they're fit and they think, oh no, it's not going to happen to me, or they think, you know, it's just a bit of back pain, it's just a wee injury. It's important to educate them about what the symptoms can be and to check and stuff like that for it. I think it is important. And
I think as well, like, again, both the same kind of age group, and growing up, you'd maybe heard like, I think it was like Stubbsy, Hearts and John Parrott were the only three that I can really remember. And it wasn't much spoken about as such. It wasn't like, these guys have had this, so let's tell you about it. It was just, these guys have had something, and that was it. Whereas you look at kind of more recent history, like, you know, the fact that Sebastian Haller got such a what do you call it, a kind of news articles and things like that spoken about. It was all across like Sky Sports News, and I think that helps us in our message as well. So when you're able to kind of point to that, like you're saying, these young fit men, you know, and it's now, you know, there's somebody who we spoke to, Robert Snodgrass, who had played with him at West Ham, and he was like, fittest guy I'd ever met. Fit, he's like, and it just shows you, it doesn't matter how fit you are, you know, and like, if we can just make guys aware of the symptoms, 100%. You know, hopefully.
I think for me, I obviously knew it existed, but it wasn't really in front of you enough for you to make you think of it. So I think if maybe I was more aware, I maybe would have checked. I mean, I didn't really have many lumps or anything like that. It wasn't really anything obvious, but if maybe I knew about that, I maybe would have had a closer check and maybe would have caught it well before. And as I said, I don't look back with any sort of bad feeling or any negative towards that, but if you can get more people to check and keep an eye out for these things, eye out for the symptoms, then it hopefully leads to you not having as dramatic a story and as big a treatment. It can be, you know, a quite curable and easily treatable thing.
And that's the thing, it's so curable, and it's like you didn't need any special equipment to check. You know what I mean? It's like, it's such an easy thing to do. And I speak about that in my talks all the time, like, you know, especially when you go into schools, and you know, it's like 5th and 6th year, you know, it's like, you know, they're on that cusp of leaving and becoming adults in their own right, but they've still got that kind of like, I don't know what to be talking about this thing. So, but you kind of deliver it in a way where if you can, you know, crack a joke, or they realise that this isn't like a death by PowerPoint stuffy person, you know, if you can do that, you win folk over. And I think if we can get guys at, you know, for the age of 15, you know, checking themselves regularly, and it just become a monthly habit, it just snowballs back down. You know, it's like this wee domino effect, hopefully. So, and that, you know, situations like for yourself, you know, and even me, like I was embarrassed and I put off going to the doctors as well. So if we can get rid of that, you know, and reading, kind of hearing this story as well, you know, it can change a lot, and it just takes one wee stone to start a ripple,
100%.
Aye. But Craig, I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Thank you for having me on.
It's been great, and like I say, I genuinely take something away every conversation that I've had, and I thoroughly enjoyed the day. Like,
me too. As I said, it's good to talk about these things, and as I said, if somebody's listening, it helps them. But it helps us as well, guys, just getting it off the chest and talking about it.
Yeah, and it weirdly, even though like I'm like 9 years out of like kind of having had it, I still feel like, you know, it helps me. It's almost like a bit of therapy as well.
100%.
You know?
I'm I'll be 4 years next month, so it does it. Every so often it pops back in your head a wee memory. So it's good to chat about it. And as I said, you look back where it's not only there is bad times experience, but you look back with a wee bit of pride. So it's good to chat about the journey anyway.
Brilliant. No, thank you so much, bud.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.